Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Marian White, and with me is my co-host since the beginning of this program, a millennium ago, I think.
Twice.
Ken Bialo.
Yes,
Welcome,
good evening,
Ken.
Marian. Good evening, Marian. How are you this evening? I would like to wish you a Happy New Year.
Well, thank you.
And we would like to wish everybody here on the show and everybody who might be watching, 2, 3, 4 people.
Up to 10.
Up to 10. The maximum of 10 on this wire. Yeah. Happy New Year.
Well,
And a healthy one.
if you won't mind me just reminding those 10 people, the reason that we listened to you so carefully is because you were mayor in the village of Larchmont for 4 years and trustee on the Larchmont Village Board for 11, plus served many other volunteer positions, and we really want to thank you.
Can I? Never mind. And dumb joke.
Good, we'll avoid dumb jokes until later in the program, okay?
All right, so we'll save dumb jokes for later. So thank you, Marian, for being a trustee for 4 years and the head of the now defunct, late not lamented Republican Party of the village of Larchmont for, 20 years?
It was a good long time.
It was a good long time. Seemed like an eternity.
But it was a lot of fun. It's a nice group of people.
It was.
So, you said that Furniture Share House has had sort of a quiet month. Mm-hmm. So I will tell you that activities at the Larchmont Rotary are heating up.
Can you tell us what position you occupy, what position of responsibility you occupy?
Well, I guess right now I'm on the board for the club, and I'm in charge of the youth activities, which are the ones I enjoy, that relate to the different schools in our community.
That sounds great.
And so we've, for something like 23 years, Jim Cunningham, who is just a wonderful local person and was a member of Rotary, and he started the Hummocks Essay Contest.
Now, what's that? Tell us about the essay contest. What happens?
We come up with a title or a subject. I work with the head of the English department at the Hummocks every fall. And we've done things like service above self. After 9/11, of course, we did some kind of topic that related to that. And I mean,
What are the essays about?
Well, we just give them
a
title. The students, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And what's been really astonishing is over this amount of time, now about half of the entries are actually poems. And the poems now win more than the regular stories. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it really is wonderful because why I love it is this age group doesn't like to talk to its parents. But well, so you don't know what on earth they're thinking. But, they put feelings. And we did bullying, I think, 2 years ago. And, that was just such a wonderful topic for the teachers to discuss with the students. And people wrote wonderful essays. So this year the topic is how can I change the world in a big way or a little way? And, it's supposed to be open-ended and get them thinking. And the essays I picked up at the end of December, and I have my Rotary judges, and so we will start judging them. Mm. And then in May, we will have a celebratory lunch. Rotary meets at lunchtime, and so we will invite the winners and the teachers. And Seth Weissman will come. His daughter won 1 year, and she went on to become a writer. And he credits our essay contest with maybe influencing just a little.
Inspiring.
Inspiring, thank you. Mm-hmm. But what they really like is there are so many sports awards in all of the schools, and that there is this that honors something other than sports.
Well, there are departmental awards as well, and there are music awards, and there's English department awards, and math department awards, and social studies department awards, and science awards. It's not
but
just
that's
sports.
All within, okay, but sports anyway, gets much of the attention.
It does.
And so to have an outside group honoring people for their writing is
That's great.
well, it's a lot of fun. I do
Yeah.
it because it's fun. So
course.
I don't take any credit, but I enjoy it. So I will report back
So this is
as we
coming
go
up.
through that. Yes, and we'll.
Can you bring like the winner? The winning essay and,
Sure.
and read it right here on,
Oh, what a fun
on
idea.
a TV program some
Okay.
point in the
Then we
near
would only
future?
have to talk for about 20 minutes instead of 30.
Maybe less.
I'll bring a long winning essay.
Okay,
How's
yeah,
that?
good, good. I like that.
That's a great idea. Well, thank you for asking about Rotary.
Yes. Well, you had a lot to say.
So, I guess one of the hottest topics since our last show is what is happening in Larchmont and surrounding areas with all this overdevelopment and people buying lots and then, knocking down houses and replacing them with 3 or 4. It's just incredible. And the what was it, the Mamaroneck Village we'll talk about, but there was a big meeting just yesterday regarding this happening in Larchmont. So I was hoping you could fill us in.
Okay. Well, there was a village board meeting last night. And it was a public meeting, which is very rare for this particular village board.
Yes, and
they-
well
and they-
attended.
Wait a second. And they did something which is even more rare for this particular village board. But
But it was
here's
well
the drill.
attended, right?
Yes, I have it on good authority from a reliable source. The meeting was held in St. Augustine's in I guess it's the auditorium.
Kenny
Remember that place
Auditorium.
remember the place where we used to go for the, back in the campaign days in 90 and 91 and 92, 93, we'd go with Joe
Oh,
Clifford.
right, for the St. Patrick's Day
St. Patrick's
thing.
Day.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
event, right, in that room. The source said that there were at least a couple of hundred people,
Wow.
including armed policemen, which I still think is ridiculous.
Armed?
You know, the crowd's got pitchforks and torches and stuff. They're coming up there. You need somebody to shoot them down immediately. So anyway, there were a lot of people there, and the subject of the discussion was a moratorium with respect to demolition and construction on residential properties. And this was all stimulated. I think that really it goes back a little bit. It goes back to a couple new houses on Larchmont Avenue where people came in and knocked over the old houses and put up these cookie cutter Nantucket shingle
But
houses,
huge.
much larger than the house they knocked down. Then there was
Right.
that empty lot opposite the end of Beach Avenue, right on Larchmont Avenue, where they took an old house and an empty space and put 2 new, huge Nantucket-looking houses. And then there was some, I guess it was planning board discussion or approval, it may have even been approval, of 4 houses to go onto a 1-house lot on Vandenberg Street, or on the back of Vandenberg Street, which I guess is, I don't know, Summit or Concord, can't remember. Anyway, so there was a feeling that there were a lot of speculators running around town doing things that were making the housing stock in the village seem more dense.
Well, totally changing the character.
Well, that's where we're going with this.
Okay.
But we have that apartment building that I think it was the last village board approved, I guess 2 buildings, over alongside the railroad tracks,
Right.
opposite the dump, behind the buildings on Palmer Avenue, which, as you drive down Palmer now, you no longer see the open space. You now behind the
Right.
the low rise buildings
Very,
on Palmer.
you know,
It really does.
strange
It's very
to
It's
see.
very startling.
Yeah.
It is startling because these are looming right behind
Yeah.
these little 2-story buildings. And my guess is that people just got fed up with the sort of I'm going to create a new word, densifying, with the increasing density of the housing stock. In addition,
And the cars that go with it.
cars, traffic, kids. In addition, just as a matter of perspective, across the highway, the town approved
yeah.
many years ago what is now a gigantic, monstrous apartment building, also overlooking the dump. and the water tanks.
And 95.
And right along 95 and the railroad tracks. So and I understand that people are buying these things and they're selling them for like $1 million, which is,
And they are selling?
in my view, well, to the extent that they're buying them, I don't know if there's any
okay.
truth to the rumors. It's virtually insane. It's
Right.
insane. I mean, how can you sell one of those things for $1 million at 5:30 in the morning in the wintertime when they start those diesel engines up so that they can leave at 6 o'clock to go out and do the trash pickup? You know, you're listening to a racket out there. I mean, I don't understand how anybody could do this. But however that may be, it's more increasing density. And in addition to that, we had the pitiful project on Palmer Avenue that opened the streets for, 2 or 3 years. And now Con Ed comes in with the gas main replacement. So the streets are open again. I think people are just generally ticked off with the way things were going. And that led to preserve Larchmont, because somebody bought 40 Ocean Avenue, which is a property of a little over an acre, and proposed to put 4, count them 4, knock down the house, put 4 buildings, which would fit on an acre and a quarter, at least under the zoning code, because it's zoned R15. 15 is a quarter of an acre. That's a little bigger.
Okay.
So you'd have enough space to do it without a zoning variance for that particular property. But this is a gracious old house sitting up on a hill overlooking the harbor, and it's noticeable. If you were to take that, it would be noticeable if you take
yes.
that down, knock down the trees, knock down the shrubs, and put up, and particularly if you were to grade the property so it no longer sits up on a hill, and put up 4 Nantucket-looking 4,500 square foot houses, all look the same, and it got under people's skin. So preserve Larchmont.
It was
Hello.
about time.
Well,
mean,
yeah,
it's been
it
a while coming.
It takes a long time to get people in Larchmont stirred up about anything
Right.
because they're busy doing
Except
other
the
stuff.
school.
Yeah, except if your kid is getting bad grades in school. But anyway, so some people came together, and I don't know who's officially in charge, if there is a person officially in charge of this. Preserve
Well,
Larchmont.
someone's making signs because they're everywhere.
I know, we have one on our lawn.
It's amazing.
Preserve Larchmont. And really the idea was to get the attention of the Board of Trustees that people were dissatisfied with the job that they were doing, and in particular with the idea that this house at 40 Ocean would be knocked down and 4 new, presumably Nantucket-looking gray shingled houses, all looking virtually the same, possibly with different angles on the windows and stuff, would be put up there. And this is really from the peeps, from the people. You know, the sort of people came together, and somebody's gotten a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And I guess it was in December we were talking about the scheduling of a hearing to talk about a possible moratorium law. And lo and behold, last night they did talk about the moratorium law, and they passed it.
Okay.
What's it a moratorium on? It's a moratorium on anybody in the village, any agency of the village, any structure of government, considering granting whatever demolition permits or construction permits.
Like the Board of Architectural Review and the Zoning Board?
Well, no board, commission, agency, department, officer, employee, consultant, or agent of the Village of Larchmont shall accept for review, continue review, hold a hearing, or make a decision on application for subdivision, whether the subdivision application was submitted before or after the effective date of this law.
Oh, well, that's good.
All right?
Well,
subdivision, so you
right.
take this one plot, right, on the zoning map, and you divide it into 4, so nobody can consider this. No board, commission, all the same, all right, can hold a hearing. No board, commission, blah, 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 shall continue review, hold a hearing, continue a hearing, or make a decision, all right, upon application for approval of a demolition permit for demolition of any one-family structure, except in connection with an interior renovation. That's right there.
so we're okay doing a
Or
renovation.
continued use of the structure for residential purposes, whether before or after this law is passed. And no board, commission, agency, blah, 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 hold a hearing, continue a hearing, make a decision on application for a variance that involves demolition, creation, or replacement of a dwelling unit. All of which sounds like it takes care of the 40 Ocean subdividing from one residential property essentially into 4. But
a
there's
big
always a
but.
catch. There's always a catch. In Section 7, which describes exceptions, it says, this local law shall not apply to any residential subdivision, residential site, plan, approval pending before any village board, provided such applications either have received preliminary approval or a negative declaration under SECRA, on or before the effective date of this local law. So, Youth Wants to Know. Remember that show, Youth Wants to Know? Was
No.
it Mr. Wizard? Wasn't it on Channel 5 at 2 o'clock or something? No? It wasn't? Okay, anyway.
I do not recall.
You're way younger than I am. So, I don't know whether 40 Ocean fits this because, as far as I know, nobody said last night whether 40 Ocean had made any applications, the owner of 40 Ocean made any applications, or received preliminary subdivision approval. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether they would fit under this exception. And they had lawyers there. Everybody had lawyers. Everybody's lawyered up.
A good night for the lawyers.
Yes. Well, lawyers need to make money too.
Well, they do.
They have to feed their kids. The law shall not apply to an existed valid building permit and substantial construction where substantial construction has commenced in reliance on the building permit. I don't think that applies to 40 Ocean, but it could. What does substantial mean? What does commenced mean? Now I'm going to lawyer this thing to death.
Well, but
right?
they'd first have to knock it down to get it into construction, wouldn't they?
Maybe. What's construction? Is construction laying the gas lines, the electric lines? What is construction?
Oh.
Do you actually have to be pouring the basement? You put the blocks in the basement, is that construction? What about if you prepare the property by constructing things like electrical connections, gas lines, sewer lines, water lines? I hope I'm not giving these turkeys any ideas. I'm sure they are way smarter than we are.
Well, does this have a time limit on it or something?
I think it's...
This is just the way it is now.
Yeah. I think it's 60 days or 90 days. Let's see. I didn't pick that up.
We should have...
6 months. Good. 6 months is good.
Now, so nothing can be done, and the idea is over the 6 months, then a permanent law will come along?
Now, here's what now, hang on.
Okay.
The issuance shall not apply to the issuance of a C of O for which building permits were issued. Now, that's not going to apply to 40 Ocean. Okay, so there are appeal procedures, and the village board takes the appeal procedures, if you can ever find them, and if they actually hold any meetings in public. In its sole discretion, the village board may refer this out to the planning board, the zoning board, or whatever. Now, here's
So it's the village board's in charge?
Essentially, during the period of the moratorium. When does the moratorium start? When does this law go into effect? When filed with the Secretary of State. One would have hoped that
it was done today?
Yes, that it was sent off today after being voted upon last night, apparently, and passed last night by the village board. Now, there's a long statement of the purpose, intent, and findings. This is a short one in the law, but there's actually a long memorandum that goes with this that says what it should say. And this is well lawyered by the village's lawyers, presumably presided over by Jim Staley. It says what it needs to say.
Well, you found that the village lawyers
Health,
were good.
welfare, character of the village being affected. It has the situation has become more exacerbated with the construction of these other buildings and sort of jamming them into small spaces. And so it's time to consider.
The water problem, the flooding problem, because of all this building.
One thing you can say about contractors or speculators, whoever it is that's involved in this, is I don't think they're environmentally attuned to the question of ground disposition of groundwater. The planning board, I don't know what the planning board does now. When I was married, the planning board job was to make sure that whatever runoff came about because of construction or enlargement of the size of a building was provided for in either dry wells or somehow directly connected to the storm sewers.
I don't think it does that anymore.
Who knows if that was... Here's the problem.
We were before the planning board. I mean, we kept our footprint, but still.
Yeah, well,
they should have asked the question.
Of course they should have asked the question. And, these are volunteer boards, right?
Yeah.
They're sitting in judgment, if you will, on their neighbors' applications to expand the use of their property. How's that? What's going to come out of that? What's going to come out of this? I think, in the best case, for those of us who are interested in preserving the character of the village, what comes out of this is a law which sets up some sort of a zoning overlay that goes around, certainly around the waterfront and maybe deeper into the manor and perhaps other parts of the village, that says you can't do things like knock down a building and put 2 buildings up on it or 4 buildings up on it. You can't do that in this zone, in this, you can call it a historic zone, you can call it a nature zone, you call it whatever you want to call it. And that, of course, will make everybody who lives in these zones completely crazy because they'll be saying to themselves, oh my God, now I can't change the color on my front door without getting permission from the Architectural Review Board. So I think in the way that I've discussed this in the past with people, and I think including with the expert that's been hired by the village, the idea was to provide some sort of accelerated process for people who live in the zone so they don't have to think that they're going to wait 2 years to change the paint on their front door. Wait 2 years for approval. An accelerated process. What that is, how it would work, how you would staff it, how you would make the distinctions between a regular process and an accelerated process. I never got that far in the thinking. That was supposed to be part 3 of the revision of the zoning code, which in the way that I had it worked out was, part 3 was the hard questions, and this is as hard a question as you can.
Yeah. Well, why is the color of paint an issue?
Why? Because in a historic district, depending on how tight the regulation is.
You mean, but they would name then a historic district?
Yeah, but you draw it around
We
the zoning
said
map.
zoning, but I didn't realize it would be named a historic district.
Here's the map of the village, and you would say, this is a historic district, and within that district, regulations apply. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this.
Okay, including color of paint, if you
Well,
want.
I mean, it depends on how
okay.
tight you draw it.
Right. Okay.
How tight you draw the
Right.
regulation. But that, it seems to me like that's at the end of the process. And are we at the end of the show?
About 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, there you are.
No. We've got 5 more minutes.
Oh. So anyway, that's, I think, where we are on that. And I encourage the village board, not that anybody who watches this show would ever repeat that. I think we should encourage the village board to take the appropriate steps and make sure that the character of the village is preserved.
But isn't it
affects all of
tricky?
us.
Because I remember when you were mayor and you worked on the whole McMansion
I
thing.
bet it's tricky.
And, and people found ways around it, right? I mean, there's just, any law that comes up, people can find a way around, it seems.
Architects. My own personal view is whatever you do for zoning, you have 3 years before the architects catch up to you. Seriously, before the application process and the sales process, selling to somebody who's interested in building, and the architects, this is the way we can do it, I'm sure we can work our way around. By the time 3 years is up, they've gotten around whatever you do. So the point of this zone, is to make it flexible enough to deal with what the architects want to do through some sort of an accelerated process, but keep it from increasing the density of the village or changing the essential character of the village, which I think is the key. Look what they're doing in Mamaroneck, right?
Yeah.
In Mamaroneck, they have to deal with this whole Hampshire golf club business. And with
Which is a flood zone, right?
Oh, it's a mess over there. And they proposed putting condos where the clubhouse is and keeping the golf course. And then they proposed changing that around and scattering houses around. And now they got another proposal. I don't know how many years, but I mean, it doesn't even say when the first proposal was put forward. June 2010 was the purchase date for $12.1 million to this company called NW, New World Realty Advisors. And they were going to originally keep the golf course and put some houses and then put some condos. So now they're talking about, ready? They're talking about single-family homes, and they're talking about, proposed condominium units declined to 96. And they're talking about, 40 single-family homes scattered throughout the golf course, which is on a floodplain. And they're agonizing over this. This is a golf course. That's a lot of acreage, right?
Yeah.
To be developed. Can you imagine if all the big houses in Larchmont And there are a lot of big houses, certainly along the water. People came in and bought them, spent millions of dollars to buy them, knocked them down, and said, we're going to put 3 houses here. I mean, 40 Ocean is only one.
Right.
And the
Oh,
thing
no,
on
there's so
Vanderbilt
many.
there are lots of huge properties around it. Properties
Right.
that are an acre or an acre and a half or stuff along the water, where you could just change the whole entire character of the place. You take it from being a historic kind of old town
Right.
into, Nantucket revisited, which, you might like that if you go there for the summertime, but you get awful bored of looking at those gray houses all year round. No trees, gray houses.
Well, except it's so crowded in Nantucket now, you can't move.
I know, and very expensive.
Well, that was fast.
We out of time? Okay, good.
Well, this was, one of the most timely subjects that we could possibly be talking about. So,
Uncharacteristic of our reportage.
okay, well, we won't be as relevant next time. How's that? Well, thank you very much to lmc-tv and to the wonderful talent on the other side of the cameras,
And Happy New Year to you all.
at least till January 31st,
Yes,
right?
after January 31st, that doesn't apply.